I love the internet, but damn has made things harder for us. Outside of social media ruining our mental health and the bajillion relationship trends erupting on TikTok, burnt toast theory, Delulu thinking, orange peel theory test, the list goes on, we now have brainrot. Just what is brainrot, you might ask? It's the he gives golden retriever boyfriend energy, or I'm doing a hot girl walk this afternoon and then a girl dinner. AKA when being chronically online bleeds into real life. Some things used to be for the internet's eyes and ears only. Not now though. Nope, our brains are rotting for all that screen time, and of course, our mental health is suffering for it. Let me explain. What is brainrot? Wait, what is brainrot again? Basically, it's a new popular culture that describes the effects of being chronically online on our mental health. Funny and self-deprecating, but also truthful. We are so glued to screens, passively feeding our minds with random useless junk that our brains are rotting. Brainrot. Behaviors. Doom scrolling and consuming negative news from social media are a few brainrot behaviors. So is talking about memes and excessively using internet slang. The main sign, however, is when your online time starts to interfere with activities of daily living, says Dr. Julia Kogan, PSI'd, a health psychologist with a background in neuropsychology. For example, if you can't sleep because your eyes are glued to your phone, or you're foregoing IRL relationships for Twitter and TikTok, you might be brain rotting. Other signs may be the difficulty separating from your phone and the need to constantly check for notifications, she says. Eye strain, headaches, or poor posture from phone use can be another sign that too much time is being spent online without a break. Who's most likely affected by brain rot? We all have brain rotted. It's hard not to when so much of our daily lives revolve around our phones. But some of us are suffering from it more than others, and unfortunately, kids seem to be the biggest demographic since the pandemic. A 2023 systemic review found that the average screen time, measuring from 2 hours and more, for children 6 to 14, has increased significantly from 41.3% to 59.4% before and after January 2020 respectively. Furthermore, additional research reported that, in the United States, children between the ages of 8 and 12 spend an estimated 4 to 6 hours a day online, whereas teens spend up to 9 hours. Mental health impact of being chronically online. While brain rot is a joke, it does highlight a serious problem with cognitive consequences, particularly for kids and teens. Licensed therapist Eli Harwood explains that when adolescents are chronically online, their primary areas of growth for that stage of life also go offline. Prevents social learning and increases loneliness. Harwood says that the entire goal of adolescence is to learn social and emotional competence within peer relationships. Experiences like your first crush or making friends at school. Part of this developmental process should be filled with heaps of awkwardness and vulnerability, which requires in-person interactions. She adds that when tweens and teens spend these years behind screens, they miss out on these necessary childhood experiences. Things like making friends, navigating conflict, maintaining relationships, and developing an authentic and confident sense of self. The replacement of in-person interactions for social media has increased rates of loneliness due to isolation, says Dr. Kogan. Excessive social media use can give a false sense of connection without actual benefits, all of which can make people feel lonelier and more isolated, putting them at greater risk of depression. Negative impact on self-esteem and body image. Social media not only mimics genuine connections but also presents an idealized portrayal of life. Too much media consumption can cause feelings of inadequacy or beliefs that you're not good enough, which may lead to self-esteem issues, says Dr. Joel Gator-Warsh, a board-certified pediatrician. Dr. Kogan adds that filters and the focus on physical appearances and unrealistic beauty standards on social media can make people feel self-conscious and dislike their bodies, all of which can increase the risk of disordered eating, poor body image, and negative self-evaluation. Furthermore, Harwood says that when adolescents are chronically online, they can be exposed to information they are not yet ready to process. Getting inundated with airbrushed images of models, pornography, bullying, and floods of dopamine from gaming and social media feedback loops does a real number on a young brain, she says. Heck, most of the adults I know struggle to stay mentally afloat with these online realities. Ain't that the truth? Increases risk of anxiety and depression. Dr. Kogan explains that overexposure to news on social media or other platforms can also increase the risks of anxiety and depression. This constant exposure can create a perception that the world is dangerous, bad, and harmful, which can further increase anxiety and depression. Potentially lead to addiction. You might not think social media is addicting, but sort of is. Social media is designed to trigger the brain's reward center. When your brain is constantly or excessively stimulated, your brain develops pathways that look similar to an addiction to drugs or other substances. Tips to minimize brain rot. Brain rot is not a permanent diagnosis. It's not a diagnosis at all, actually, LOL. But there are ways to minimize it for you or your kids. Delay smartphone use for children. Harwood recommends parents delay smartphone use for their children. Parents should only give teens age 16 and older a smartphone. The less access and exposure a teen has, the less likely they are to be chronically online, says Dr. Jonathan Haidt, a social psychologist and expert on the effects of social media use on adolescents. Set screen time boundaries and limits. Dr. Warsh suggests parents create clearly stated timeframes for screen use that do not interfere with areas such as school and homework, family meals, or sleep. Designate device-free zones and times like dinner time or family movie night. Harwood also recommends using parental controls and turning off the internet an hour before bedtime to ensure everyone is sleeping enough and getting time off tech. Model good behavior. It's not only children who struggle to stay offline, we all do. Warsh adds that children tend to follow what their parents or adults do. Model a balanced screen time in your own routine and younger ones will notice and mimic your behavior. Replace online time with screen-free activities. Swap your phone for physical activity, friend hangouts, or other hobbies. The more joy and fulfillment we receive elsewhere, the less likely we'll spend excessive time on social media. And less social media is really what we need right now. As the kids say, we should go touch some grass. That's all, peace.